We're through the last of it and done.
For what? Didn't you forget about it?
No, tax firm in Natick wanted me to take a test because I didn't, I passed 2 of the 3 EA parts. I didn't get the third yet. And I'm doing the third end of this month, but they're like, well, if you can pass this, we'll take you on. And they wanted 80% on it. What messed me up is it's looking so different from 5-6 years ago with everything.
Yeah, I know.
Everything.
I know.
And the more I read, the more the little guy got, what, the QBI, compute and math.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
It's not fun.
No. All right, you ready? All right, so we're going to reconvene the joint meeting between the FAA and the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to open this up. We have the, everybody should have the warrant in front of them. And I guess we can go through these, you want to go through these one at a time? Selectman?
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'm not sure which chairman I'm going to talk to, but could I suggest that the Board of Selectmen chair at this time officially open the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and that we do the Pledge of Allegiance for the Board of Selectmen's meeting? And then we're ready to attack the agenda.
All right. Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair. Okay, it is 7:11 PM. I'd like to open the Board of Selectmen portion of the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Appropriation and Advisory Committee. Will you all join me, please, in standing for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Want to go through the articles?
Would I be yielding to you for this?
No, you can go through them and we'll,
Okay, I go with
questions or whatever I can.
All right. Article 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty perfunctory. Article 4, Police Department, police cruiser purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $51,000.00 or such other sum to cover costs associated with the purchase of one police cruiser, as recommended by the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Yes, Mr. Ruda.
My recommendation for that article is to use $13,000 from the police cruiser revolving account and fund the remainder of the purchase, $38,000 from free cash.
Okay. Mr. Ruda, will we be voting separately? Will we be voting together? Do you need a vote from us now, or do we just?
Well, the easy way to do it, Mr. Chairman, if I may, is to not take a vote on it until, unless someone has an objection on the Board of Selectmen to a particular article, and if so, then we need to iron that out. And if that is successfully approved by the board, then we would simply vote to approve the warrant articles as presented.
Sounds good to
All
me.
as one.
And also I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, the FAA has a public hearing scheduled for next Tuesday night, and we will be making our recommendations that evening.
Okay.
Okay?
So we really aren't, we're going to do what we usually do then, where we vote town meeting, the meeting before town meeting? I know
Well,
sometimes we.
Mr. Chairman, if there are any legal questions that come up, now's the time to pose them, because the last several town meetings, we've asked 11th hour questions that didn't have a proper chance to be reviewed. So I would suggest that if any questions come up, now's the time to pose them.
Okay. So then I guess I'll just keep reading these, and if anyone has any objections, any questions, just stop me. Article 5, Highway Department, street sweeper purchase, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $225,000 or such other sum for the purchase of a 2019 Elgin Pelican street sweeper with associated equipment or equivalent street sweeper as recommended by the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, or take any other action relative thereto. And,
Question?
yes.
Through you to the administrator. What will we do with the old one? Do we keep it as a backup? Do we trade it? Or do we declare it surplus and sell it?
The old street sweeper, and the superintendent can help me if you have any further questions about it, it's going to be converted into a storm drain cleanout unit, catch basin cleanout unit, and not taken out of service. We're going to retain it and turn it into that.
So will that be able to, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
will that be able still to be used as a street sweeper?
No.
Okay.
It's a combination unit, and it does both functions. It cleans catch basins and it street sweeps. It sweeps streets. The street sweeper part of it is completely worn out, but the catch basin part of it is still functionable. So when the new one comes in, the street sweeping equipment will be stripped off of it, and it'll be used as a catch basin cleaner only.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Article 6, Highway Department, guardrail replacement on Charlton Road, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $14,402 or such other sum for guardrail replacement on Charlton Road at Michael Lane, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a last-minute development. Can we hold on that article until the end? We may have to make an amendment to it.
Okay? Put a hold on 6. Anyone else? Okay. Article 7, Highway Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $9,300 or such other sum for a waste oil heater for the Highway Department, or take any other action relative thereto.
I do have Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for the
Mr.
Highway
Mayor?
Department, if he,
Did he? Yep. Oh, I wasn't sure if you heard.
Just a quick question on this. Warranty on this, what's the warranty on these things?
I think it's a 3-year on it.
3 year? Okay. Well, I'm just familiar with these things. They break down a lot.
Yeah, this is a good brand name one. I did have some quick notes. I think a gas bill averaged between $6,000 and $6,500 a year at the Highway Department, and we're paying right now 50 cents a gallon to get rid of this stuff. So that's all. I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the Highway Department that's familiar with, like, doing simple repairs to these things, or are you gonna have to contract out?
I mean, there's a lot of talent there. There's a bunch of talented people. It's the pump in them, I guess, gets clogged up. And
Yeah, right.
they are a lot. They require a lot of maintenance, but the cleaner the oil, the better off they are.
But we have guys that can do that. We don't
Yes.
have to contract out for
Yeah.
that stuff. All right, that's all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what's the payback on that from the savings?
I don't know I don't know until it's in place and running, but I would think it would save at least $2,000 a year off of the heat bill, and then whatever we're paying right now for the waste oil at the recycling center, and whatever we generate in the other departments too. So, I mean, right now it's 50 cents a gallon to dispose of it.
Be nice to calculate that, if it's a question at town meeting.
After 1 year,
'cause you don't know the
after it's
winter.
running for a year, it'll nail it.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Article 8, Fire Department, purchase firefighter gear, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $24,600 or such other sum for 12 sets of fire gear, the 4th year of a 4-year replacement plan, or take any other action relative thereto. This is the last year of those with the holes in them, outdated.
Yes, and this was approved in the spring by all three boards. They just decided to pass it over till the fall. And yes, this is the final year, so we won't have to start purchasing gear again till 2025.
That's great. Excellent. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay. Article 9, Fire Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $8,000 or such other sum to fund the fire overtime account due to contractual obligations or take any other action relative thereto. Anything on this one? Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, my concern is that when you state a figure, Mr. Administrator, when you state a figure in actual dollars, you cannot increase that by amendment on the floor. So do you want to say 8,000 or another sum, meaning it's going to be less? Because if we're going to go over, you can't amend it on the floor and vote on it. It can't go higher.
I don't anticipate that that figure will increase between now and October 29th, so I'm comfortable with that figure if the chief is.
Okay. It's just the wording was, caused me to ask the question.
Okay.
Good. Anyone else? Okay, next one, Article
Sorry.
10. I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Johnson?
Chief, what was the contractual obligations?
Well, there's actually a couple issues here, but one, I have to pay for the holidays, which I've always had to do. And also in 2013, we had $5,000 taken out of that account. And also our call volume has increased by 44% since that time. So combination of all those things, I overrun that line every year. I mean, it goes in the negative every single year, so. And same with the next article, because it's a similar article. It's just asking for increase in call fire salaries, which is the on-call people from home, not the full-time people. But same thing with that line when it comes up. We've run in the negative every year since 2013 and on both those, and because the call volume keeps going up and you're not going to not respond to the calls. So I'm just asking to bump them up a little bit, you know, baby steps.
Would that be something you then budget for next year?
Yeah, I just put it as, like, depending on what the outlook is next year for the budget, but I'll probably level fund it at this level after I get the increase at fall town meeting. I won't look to increase it again
Gotcha. Okay.
in the
Thank you.
spring.
Thank you, Chief.
There's one more, just in case. Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, these two articles combined, and I have no problem taking them together. But the two articles ask for 16,000, just so, total, just so people understand the scope of the operation of the fire department. Would you estimate or tell us what the income is from the ambulance and inspection services, not projecting what it's going to be for the year, no crystal ball, but about what is it at this point?
The income for the ambulance, well, overall, what it brings in is 529,000. It's about 12 to 13 grand better than break even. So it supports itself and brings in an extra $12,000 or $13,000 a year. That's not taxpayer money.
Thank you. I think it's important people to know that.
I agree.
No.
I agree.
I mean, I know it goes back into the general fund, but I get it back, but really, only half my budget theoretically is supported by taxpayer money. The other half is supported by ambulance receipts.
Thank you.
Would you mind hanging around, Chief? The next one is the fire department too, just in case. I don't want to,
Okay.
you're putting miles on the shoes there. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $8,000 or such other sum to fund the call fire salary account or take any other action relative thereto. Anything on that? Oh, I spoke too soon.
I kind of went over it a little bit with the other. It's the same thing. I mean,
Yep.
like I think Paul was trying to make the point too. A lot of our calls, fires were up. They're multi-truck calls. A lot of people come in. you know, you're paying, it's not just like an ambulance going out. You got 3 or 4 trucks going a call with 4 or 5 guys on it apiece, and they're there for 3 or 4 hours. So,
Understood.
okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Article 11, Management Information Systems Director, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $25,000.00 or other such sum to provide funding for upgrades to the town hall network equipment or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman, this project was approved by capital improvement back a couple of years ago. This is the final
Okay.
payment on this project.
Chairman,
Mr. Johnson?
is this not to be confused with cable infrastructure and?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was going to ask what it was. What's the specific
This was all
network
the-
equipment?
This
Is
was
there-
all the computer upgrades and software that we had done.
Okay, so we're
So
looking
it's
at
entirely separate.
Yeah.
hardware, software. Anyone have any additional questions on Article 11?
Nope.
Mr.
Okay,
Johnson?
so that was the answer to the question. Okay, sorry.
Hardware, software.
Thank you.
Article 12, Treasurer Collector, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $112,500.00 or such other sum to maturing debt account, and there's the account number, for the purpose of paying off the bond for the Dudley Municipal Complex's roof replacement project and HVAC project, or take any other action relative thereto. Anyone have any questions on this?
Nope.
Mr. Carmignani, did you have anything you wanted to add? Or are you good? It's pretty self-explanatory, I just didn't, you sat down, didn't know if,
No, we put a roof on. They want us to pay for it. So right now, we're just making interest-only payments, so we need to do something.
okay, so this is that something.
This is,
So, Mr. Chairman, the roof has been placed for a debt exclusion by the selectmen on the spring ballot.
Mm-hmm.
If it passes, then it's debt excluded. If it doesn't, then we should be able to maintain sufficient amount of money between stabilization and free cash to make the first third of a payment, correct?
Okay.
Rich?
This would be, you could make a 1/4. If you don't make a 1/4 this year, then it needs to be the 1/3
The
next year.
1/3, so we'll have sufficient amount of money to cover that.
Try to keep it as simple as you can.
Is what?
Try to keep it as simple as you can. The purpose of this is to prevent us, the way we're currently doing it, from simply paying interest and not taking care of the debt. Is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah, that's the answer. That's simple.
Article 13, Treasurer Collector, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $50,000 or such other sum to the maturing debt account, there's an account number, for the purpose of paying off the bond for the LED streetlight conversion project, or take any other action relative thereto. Anyone have any questions on this? Looks like the funding's coming through the Green Communities Grant. Mr. Johnson?
Right, so this is
We were
is
able,
that the net amount, or is that what we're getting back?
so we're going to have, this is a payment on money that was borrowed for the LED streetlights, and the first payment will be coming from money that was released within the last week or so from the Green Communities Grant. It was about 46.
From who?
From the Green Communities Grant that we secured in
And
2014.
approximately, what was that amount?
46,000, and there's about 14,000 in the account now.
That's a nice deal. Okay.
All right, so this is half of the total roughly.
This is a quarter of the total. It's a $200,000, correct, Rich? $200,000 loan that we took out.
Anyone else? Anything else? On to Article 14, Treasurer Collector, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $31,428 or such other sum to the insurance general account, There's the account number, or take any other action relative thereto. Anyone have any questions? Mr. Joseph?
Is this above what's already been appropriated, Rich?
Correct.
And why is it up 31,000?
I'll try to make it brief. Property and casualty is up 5,500. Public officials liability, close to 2,900. Auto up 14,800. End of year auto adjustment under 100. Law enforcement liability up 1,400. Workers' comp up 11,600. We paid an additional $7,000, almost $8,000 in IOD claims for last year. So it's our utilization, and I'm figuring there has to be a 3 to 4% increase because it's the insurance business. So we hit everything but the lottery, and it's time to pay for it.
Okay.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, are we at bad risk in terms of incidents that insurance has to cover?
I'm not a professional, but we've had the gradual increases. If I'm reporting auto accidents, if I'm reporting workers' comp claims, it's going to be reflected in future premiums, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask two things that I asked unanimous consent from the Board of Selectmen. One is that that we ask Rich and the town administrator to look into whether or not there is some training that can occur, information to our staff, so that we become less of a risk, number one. And number two, that we look at the possibility of putting out for bids any insurance that we may be able to do better on. And the reason I say that is, despite objections, we did that probably 10 years ago, and we saved considerable amount of money for the same coverages. So I'm just asking the board that when the time comes, that by unanimous consent, that we want those things done.
I'll object. I'm not going to discuss that right now. This is a budget hearing.
I'm not asking you to object. You're not a member of the board. I'm just asking the board, Rich, if they will consider that at a later time, when the board is all here and together and can vote on it. I'm not asking your opinion. I'm talking to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I propose we table it to the next meeting.
Yeah, when there's 5 of us here, we can have a nice
Absolutely.
discussion about it.
I want to raise it in the board's consciousness.
Anything else? No. Treasurer collector to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $38,988.57 or such other sum as follows from the water department retained earnings, the sum of $20,530.46, or such other sum, and from the sewer retained earnings, the amount of $18,458.11, or such other sum for the purpose of funding additional health insurance costs as expensed in the general fund, or take any other action relative thereto. Excuse me. Anyone have any questions on this? Okay. Article 16, Conservation Commission, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $1,643.00, or such other sum to increase the Conservation Commission's clerk's salary line item, or take any other action relative thereto. Anything on this? Hearing nothing, on to Article 17, Board of Assessors, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $305.45, or such other sum to the assessor's expense count, or take any other action relative thereto. Any questions, concerns on this one? Hearing nothing. Article 18, Water Sewer Department, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to release and abandon on such terms and conditions and for such consideration, which may be nominal consideration, as the Board of Selectmen deems in the best interests of the town, the easement granted to the town by deed recording with the Worcester South District Registry of Deeds in Book 4637, page 187, in, on, or under the parcels of land located on the southerly side of Packard Drive, shown as lots 19 and 20 on a plan recorded with said deeds and plan Book 312, page 63, and described in a deed recorded in Book 6914, page 264. Said release not affecting any of the other easements granted to the town pursuant to the foregoing deed in Book 4637, page 187. A lot of books and pages. Or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
can I get a 1-minute summary of what that all means?
Yeah, could we get the Reader's Digest version of this?
In English?
Yeah, that too.
I wish you could give it to me. Apparently, a while ago, there was a covenant not released on this land on Packard Drive. It runs close to Station Number 5. And that's the reason for it. It was held because of the zone protection around Station 5. Well, Station 5 is no longer considered any source of water. It's too close to the road, and DEP has defunct that station. We can still use it for something, maybe fire protection or something like that, or some separate water type thing. But they're asking to put 2 lots just behind that station from Ridge Drive down towards Station 5. And it's been just requested that we release it. And it's no problem in DEP's eyes and no problem in our eyes to release it, so they can actually build a couple houses on the far corner. We hit the land mass at the 200-foot level, and it's just hitting the corner section of the property anyway. So it's ridiculous to have it even on there. It makes the land not usable for anybody who owns it.
So basically, this is someone's land. We had an easement on it because of the pump station. We're not using the pump station anymore, and they're asking us to release the easement so they can
Correct. It was
use their property.
required to have the zone protection around there, but not anymore because the
Okay.
station is defunct now. So it null and voids it.
Makes sense.
So to be clear, we do not own the land.
No, not those
We've
parcels.
been using it.
We've been borrowing
By
it for a while.
covenant.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. There's a couple more here. You might as well get comfortable.
Jeez, thanks.
Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $125,000 for Phase 3 of the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection mandated inflow and infiltrating I&I study and related work as needed, or take any other action relative thereto.
Yeah, there's a continuation of our INI inflow infiltration study. It's mandated by the state. We're at that phase right now. It's $125,000 to continue the assessment phase of it. Most of the people are familiar with this anyway. It's just a standard. We got a few years to go into this, and once we compile all this information and testing, then it tells us where we have to make corrections and repairs, things like that.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Mr. Chair, just to let you
Yeah.
know, this was just approved by capital improvement,
Okay.
this project.
Anyone else? Mr. Johnson?
No,
You good?
not good, but I can't formulate a question at this time.
No question?
No question.
Article 20, Water Sewer Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $100,000.00 as follows: $50,000 from water retained earnings and $50,000 from sewer retained earnings for the purchase of radio readers and bases, or take any other action relative thereto. Radio readers and bases, what's that?
Meter reading apparatus. We're advancing up to this year's new technology, so we can go out there and assess, and the system makes it easy for us to read the meters by way of radio communication instead of going up to houses and either reading it in the cellars or up the side of the house. This is going to allow us to go around and do what used to take 2 weeks into 2 days, along with the software of being able to detect leaks, anybody stealing water, any high use of water, low use of water, no use of water. It actually pinpoints where areas we can look at that may have problems in homes and things like that. So it's the new technology, it's needed, it's what all the towns are using, And eventually, we'll probably be able to do it just out of the town hall here through a radio receiver, through an antenna, to gather all the information at once. But we haven't got there yet. We're still about 400 houses short, and we still have to go back and replace some batteries on the systems that were put in originally 10, 15 years ago. These new ones are about 20-year lifespan.
Mr. Joseph?
In this reader system, will this be done this year, this coming fiscal year?
No, we're working on it, but it's gonna take another couple of years, depending when we get the monies for it. This'll take a good chunk out of it.
Okay.
But we still got about 440, somewhere in there left to go.
All right, thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, this was detailed in front of the Capital Improvement Committee too, which approved this.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
So I guess I formulated my question about Article 19 one late. So why is Article 20 paid out of retained earnings, but not Article 19?
Which one are you talking? The 125 is to be borrowed? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, why is that borrowed and not out?
Because the sewer department budget's very thin right now, and I need to borrow that money for that amount of money. Even though it's mandated, I can't go tapping into I'm tapping into retained earnings for the radio readers right now. I gotta be careful. We're on a
Mr.
thin line,
Cleary?
even water and sewer. There's been a lot of major expenses that have come up on both.
Is the question who's gonna be paying off the debt, Mr. Johnson? Is it coming from retained earnings or from the tax base? Is that what you're?
Yeah, just understanding the difference between the two articles and the different ways to fund it. So,
Mr.
thank you for
Chairman,
the
Yeah,
answer.
Jay raises a point that I wish I had thought of and didn't. Would it be possible for the Board of Selectmen to also ask the water and sewer departments to provide us with the status of their financial status in terms of balances, what's been spent to date, just a typical regular financial balance? I'm asking that. Whether you want to wait till the full 5 board is together, that's fine. But
Can that just be-
we should know that
Can
information.
that be an agenda item as part of your monthly report?
I'd like to see that.
I won't object to that.
21?
21, Mr. Joseph, moving me right along. Water Department to see if the town will vote to A, raise and appropriate, borrow or transfer from available funds the sum of $900,000.00 for the design, construction, and related services for various water projects, including but not limited to: 1, connecting a replacement well at pump station number 3 to the water system. 2, testing, permitting, and drilling of a new well field at the main pumping station, station number 1. 3, connecting the proposed well field at station number 1 to the water system. And 4, water main replacement on Mason Road extension, water main extension onto GNS Drive, and rehabilitation work on the Dresser Hill Road water storage tank and the Bates Road water storage tank, and for all other work incidental and related thereto. And B, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into contracts and legal instruments necessary or convenient to accomplish the foregoing, all upon such terms and conditions, including terms of years as the board deems in the best interest of the town, or take any other action relative thereto.
Yeah, there's a mouthful here. I'll try to make it as brief as I can. Just so the board, the people who aren't aware, the town has 3 pumping stations. One of them is now down, and it's been down since 2001. And the reason it was down it's our main station, and that's been down because of cracked shallow well, problems with coliform bacteria, issues with the pumpage itself, a whole assortment of issues. But we've kept it active by testing. By doing that, we're able now to rejuvenate that station, because I looked into some research about pounding down some gravel wells and did some testing up there. The testing was done in conjunction with station number 3 over here on Schofield Ave, which is one of our 2 main pumping stations, which are pumping right now close to capacity, okay? That station, and to answer your question, Paul, $300,000 came out of retained earnings from this past budget to fund that emergency
Good amount.
appropriation, correct, for that station to be done. That's a no-brainer. That's an emergency and had to be done. It had a collapse of the well. It's been Band-Aided twice already. No time more for Band-Aiding. It has to have a new replacement well. The process has now begun and is now 3/4 of the way done. The new well should be underway this next week. Along with that, and the Station 1 project for rehabilitation and looking for a 3rd water source again, These costs here for the engineering, for all the design, planning, permitting phases for all the stations. When this station finishes off, there's still design and planning by the engineer. That's not part of the original costs of getting it well established. That goes on for the DEP approvals, permits, so they can go online. Same with Station 1 now. That project is coming up in the next year or so, where that's going to involve a lot of designing and planning, because there's also possible future treatments that may be involved in that too. So that will make our third water source. We're also looking for four water sources. I've got ideas on that, but that's down the line. Right now, the DEP's primary concern is that we get these 2 pumping stations, this one fixed and this one online as soon as possible, because the town is at maximum capacity on its water. Okay, we're okay right now, the temperature's gone down, but when it's hot, the schools are in session, it's a tricky little gig. So we've got that stage going, and along with that is coming into play is the AC pipe replacement on Mason Road Extension. That's transite water main. That's the stuff that's in the ground, that's in swampy soil. It's very punky. It breaks at any type of pressure increase or any problems. We've been out there many times fixing it, along with the lateral streets on Mason Road Extension. So my project is to get those, at least the trunk line, we call it, established with a new 8-inch pipe to go from the fire station to June Street, where we did a small section a couple of years back up to Dudley Oxford Road and across the street over and do the whole Mason Road Extension to GNS Drive, make a nice loop in. That's the goal on that. The other ones are the Dresser Hill tank and the Bates Road tank. Those are under DEP mandates for a complete drain down, epoxy coating, cleaning, small upgrades in construction issues with just some supports and things like that. They've been holding that off for us because they know our stations can't take the drain down and recoup all that water for what we have for pumpage right now. So we're holding off on that. Hopefully those will be done after the 2 pump station projects are done. Kind of a bunch of things in one nutshell, but they all, these design and planning phases have to be done early. It's not like you can do them just before you do the projects. It takes a good year to 2 years for all these to get into effect and DEP approvals to go for the next stage.
Okay.
Hope that answers some of it.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions?
So, just, Mr. Chairman, this was extremely detailed warrant article that was brought in front of capital improvement also, and the capital improvement did approve this one.
Approved it.
Yep.
Good.
Mr. Johnson, you're good?
I'm good.
Everybody's good? Everybody's good?
That's it.
Just one quick question, if I may.
Certainly.
That Article 21, what's the scope of work on the roads?
Could we get you to the microphone? I couldn't.
On that Article 21, water main replacements, I was just concerned what the scope of work is on the roads to repair the roads after these mains have changed.
That's going to probably be determined through the highway also. What we have, we'll probably go to the center of the roads. It'll be going up the opposite side of the existing main now, and we'll see. I think before we did it over the whole road eventually.
Well, that's what I mean, with the source of funding you got, what is that?
Right now, this is only designing and planning stages. There's nothing on the contracted phase. That's the borrowing side, and that'll be all worked into that.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, when we talked about this in one of the meetings, it was a total resurface of the roads.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a patchwork.
Yeah. Like I said,
So
that's
that
all
should be
part of the
included in
borrowing
the funding
package,
when
and
it
the
comes.
engineers and everything, we all get into that, and then the highway gets involved at the time when we're ready for the road part of it, so we can make everybody happy. We learned that lesson on Mill Street to make sure that everybody was involved in that when that project was done, and that was a major situation when we did the Mill Street project.
Well, I'm sure if we're repaving Mason Road, the residents would like some speed limit signs on there. That would make them happy, that's for sure.
Yeah, yep. So it'll make everybody happy to get that road buttoned down with a nice new water main too, so.
Thank you. That'll make everyone happy. Thank you. Article 22, Town Administrator, to see if the town will vote to transfer $5,377.95 or such other sum from Board of Health clerk account as follows. $2,123.00 or such other sum to Fire Chief account, $1,568.00 or such other sum to Assistant Fire Chief account, and $1,688.95 or such other sum to Library Youth Services account, or take any other action relative thereto.
Just correction, it's $1,686
Isn't that what I said?
No, 88. $6.
I graduated in 88, that's why 88 just kind of rolls.
I
86
listened
is a
to you.
better number, so.
Yeah, $1,686.95. Mr. Joseph?
Question on the $5,377.95, which I know the town administrator knew was coming for the Board of Health clerk. Is that an increase in hours, or is there any raise in the hourly rate for that person?
Mr. Joseph, it looks
It's a
like that's
transfer
coming.
out of the
Transfer
account,
out.
sir.
I'm sorry?
I'm moving the money from the Board of Health clerk account.
Didn't ask you that. All right? That particular amount of money, didn't we have that person work more hours than he was working?
So he's being paid through the vacant building clerk's account. So there's a surplus in the Board of Health account. So we're using that money to transfer. It's already been appropriated, but it's going to be unspent funds, so we're using that to make the transfer into the other account.
Okay,
that's-
so my question simply is, where is that $5,400? How are we able to reduce that, and from what account? The Board of Health clerk? How are we able to reduce that, Jonathan?
So we've taken one position, which is a part-time position, which was fully appropriated and funded for the year, and we're having that position fill in for two positions, which is, one of them is the full-time building clerk's position. So we have a surplus of money, because we haven't filled the building clerk's position yet. So we're using that surplus of money that's been previously appropriated, the $5,000 from the
Good.
Board of Health,
Perfectly good
and
explanation.
transferring it into...
That's a good size amount of money, but thank you.
Yep.
That's a great explanation.
It's a lot of saved money. Anyone else? 23, Town Administrator, see if the town will vote to transfer $5,000 or such other sum from Building and Grounds account to the compensated absence account, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman, that's the same situation. Raised and appropriated, but it's going to be unspent surplus, which we're transferring into an account that has a deficit.
Okay, anything? Anything on that? Article 24, Board of Selectmen, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $30,000.00, or such other sum to the legal expense account, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr.
My
Joseph?
question is that the town administrator provide the board with a listing of the costs for legal services by issue. If we could get that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. To the extent that they detail that expense on their invoice, I think we'll provide the information you're asking me for.
Okay, I think that's important to know, for us.
Yeah.
I imagine the FAA might also find it helpful.
Anything else? No. Article 25, unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $22,941.07, or such other sum to pay unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year, or take any other action relative thereto. WGL Energy, $3,559.99. WGL Energy, $5,804.34. WGL Energy, $6,076.36. WGL Energy, $7,120.83. Harrington Memorial Hospital, $113. Harrington Memorial Hospital, $100.05. And KP Law, $166.50.
Mr. Chair, I just, through you, I'd like to ask the town administrator, the WGL Energy, can you give us a little explanation on that, and why is it broken down in 4 ways here?
Well, so WGL Energy, and I'm actually happy that we either didn't get the invoices in time for the end of the fiscal year, or whatever the case may have been, that brought this to my attention. At our previous Board of Selectmen meeting, what I mentioned was that we about 10 years ago, well, 8 years ago, actually purchased a solar array in Orange, Massachusetts. We purchased just about all of the energy that it produces. The name of the company is WGL Energy. We can't use the amount of credits that we have to pay for. So that brought that to a specific light, and now we're trying to work towards a solution for those expenditures.
We can't sell that?
We're working on it. I think we can.
Because any excess, I mean, my meter goes both ways on my house. So anything I generate above what I use goes into a credit. And I can either use it during the winter if I need it, or I can sell it to another customer at any kilowatt hour price that I want. And all I do is I tell Jay, who runs National Grid, to transfer X number of kilowatt hours to Mr. Ruda. Is there do we have any kind of estoppment that prevents us from doing that?
So, no, there's nothing that prevents us from doing it, but we have to find a customer for it. And I think that we've narrowed it down, and I think we're gonna be able to sell some, which I'll be happy to talk about the next meeting, because the people who may be buying it haven't said, yes, we're gonna buy it yet. They need to vote on it.
Thank you. That's good news.
So I guess I'm a little confused. What's the payment for if we're getting energy?
So
We're buying energy from them, or, well, we already bought this stuff?
A long time ago, I believe.
So we bought the amount of energy a solar array produces in Orange, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We signed a 20-year contract to purchase all the energy that solar array produces at a discount rate. So we're under contract to purchase that amount of energy, whether we use it or not, from that solar array. And as we don't use it, which we would never be able to use the amount of energy we've purchased, it becomes a credit on our National Grid bill. So we have to find a way to do two things: sell what we're not using and fix the contract so that it works for the town.
Okay. Is this represent 4 years, or is this 4 separate bill?
Months,
4 months?
yes.
Yep.
We've applied all these credits to every bill we have in town.
It's
for
time to
towns,
start selling.
And it's time to start selling. We have over $100,000 in credits that we just can't use.
Mr. Ruda, how long, when was this contract entered into, and how much more do we have on it?
We're about 8 years into a 20-year contract.
Okay.
The good news is, we got credits, we can sell them.
Correct.
The good news. And by law, we can even sell them at a profit for more per kilowatt hour than what we're paying.
Or we could sell it at a reduced price and dump and get rid of them.
So I'm assuming
Don't forget, the market right now is flooded with solar credits, so we don't come to the party with anything that someone already can't get.
That's a good point. Thank you.
what exactly is a solar credit? Is that 1 kilowatt hour? Is that
Right,
okay? So we have 100,000 hours to sell.
well, we have $100,000 worth of credits.
Okay.
Everyone at town meeting puts their name in a hat, and we pick a few.
Yeah.
So
We'll get
people at
through
town
it.
meeting anyway.
We'll get through it, but this is one instance where unpaid bills work to our advantage, because it would have taken me 6 more months to get to
I
this.
just have to give them credit. This is the first time that we're knowing what we've got for cash credit and paying these past bills. And I'm gonna tell you, in 16 years, 8 of which we've had this contract, I've never known this information. So that's good.
Anyone else, anything? 26, Board of Selectmen, to see if the town will vote pursuant to general laws, Chapter 59, Section 38H, or any other enabling authority to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate and enter into an agreement for payment in lieu of taxes, pilot agreement, for a ground-mounted solar facility to be located at 197 Oxford Road, Dudley, Massachusetts, for the term up to 20 years from the date such facility becomes operational, and upon such other terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deemed to be in the best interest of the town, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take such actions as may be necessary or convenient to implement such agreement and accomplish the purpose of this article, or take any other action relative thereto. Anyone have any questions on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't have any objections to these articles. We've seen these before. The language where it says negotiate and enter into the agreement, I think needs to be, the word enter needs to be struck out of this. We've had these conversations before. The pilot agreement, and it's, like I said, I have no objection to the selectmen or anybody negotiating these agreements. The pilot agreement has to be approved at town meeting. So the pilot agreement has to be known and then presented at town meeting in order to be approved. That's how pilot agreements work. And I think the last time we did this, I think Mr. Sullivan made a motion to strike out the word enter.
I was on the FAA back when
So,
I did that, I remember that.
so I just kind of caution that, caution the language there with negotiate and enter.
So this language was provided to me from town council, which I think has a differing opinion. If this is authorized for us to enter into the agreement, meaning the Board of Selectmen, by the town meeting voters, then they've so authorized. So
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
I understand your,
I think, yeah, like I say, we've gone over this, I've been with the, prior administrator. And I think it makes common sense if you think about it. Pilot agreements are a payment in lieu of taxes. That's something that the town votes on, it's not a negotiated, it's not approved by Board of Selectmen, it's approved at the town meetings. So the agreement itself has to be public knowledge for the town, people at the town vote on it. So the part of this that says negotiate, that's purview of the selectmen or the administrator, whoever you want to negotiate it. Once it's negotiated, the terms and conditions are agreed to, then it goes to town meeting to be voted on at town meeting, and it's a simple majority. And we've done this before, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up again.
So what would you suggest, Mike, in terms of the language?
I would strike enter out of this, and just put negotiate.
Okay, so could I have no objection
I don't either,
to running that past town council and asking them what the impact is of removing that, knowing, and Mike's correct, that it has to be approved by town meeting. I'd like to see that.
Now, previous council, when I brought this up and went to previous council, and I'm not sure of the current council that we have for the town, but the previous council, I don't know if they did the research into it, but they said, no, the article was fine. So if you start looking at chapter 59, section 38H, start reading through it, talks about pilot agreements, it says they're approved at town meeting, so.
That's worth bringing up.
Well, I just don't want to see the town get, put the cart before the horse, and then down the road, we're using that $30,000 of.
yeah, we did it that way before, where town meeting gave the Board of Selectmen the right to negotiate it, and then it went before town meeting again to be approved.
Right. That's my only comments on it.
so would it be helpful if I got a written opinion from town council specifically to removing that wording and ask what the procedure in terms of approval should be?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can make the amendment at the town meeting?
Mhm.
Good. Okay. I'll deal directly with Mr. Mayotte in case there's any further clarification needed, or we'll try to get you that well in advance, get everybody the opinion well in advance.
Thank you.
Everybody good on 26? 27, town administrator, see if the town will transfer $6,000.00 from the town administrator's salary account for the purpose of paying for the first year of ClearGov software contract, or take any other action relative thereto. What's ClearGov software contract?
So this is a one-year contract that I have not signed yet, but I would like to. That order that provides total transparency on our website. It provides statewide data on everything from crime rates to tax rates. It gives us the ability to track projects like fire station building projects, road and infrastructure, water sewer improvement projects. It posts how well we're doing in comparison to other towns. It posts how well we're doing in terms of keeping to a budget. It's a really neat software tool. We wouldn't be committed to any more than a year for it, and I think it's a good initiative for us to explore. I'd like to roll it out.
You said this would be on our website?
This would be on our website. Right now, we have a lot of data posted on our website, a lot of financial data that is little more than a weekly ledger, and it needs a lot of work to be interpreted. We don't have the staffing or the time to provide the kind of data that this software can provide in the service that this company provides.
Mr. Carmignani?
I was fortunate enough to go through the 2 presentations of ClearGov. Think of it not as the town of Dudley, but think of everyone in Massachusetts. I think they reach outside to places in New England. They're getting data. They're bringing the data in and they're presenting it to someone other than this group. The idea that my next door neighbor clicks on it, my goodness, my taxes are high, where do they go? And there's going to be a chart that's going to compare us to similar demographics, similar sizes, similar populations. They're the ones who behind the scenes go through and get all of the information. The information's there, but it's not really friendly. The idea is to be able to get the message out empirically. It's not going to be subjective that we need to spend more or we're spending too much. It's to get the information from the state and let the voter decide, you know, compared to the 12 similar towns, the town of Dudley spends the least on something. It would be reasonable to think they would want to be more competitive. It's marketing numbers in a very digestible form.
Like that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So the 6,000 is the first year contract, then what are you looking at from a overall, like,
It's about a
yearly
fourth.
expense?
It's about a 4,400 to 4,500 annual expense.
And what type of foot traffic do we get on our website that warrants that kind of expenditure?
Well, the foot traffic we get on our website is low because we don't have this kind of, there's very little reason to go on our website unless you're going there to pay a bill. I like to drive people to our website because all this information will be available.
Will any of, you say this will be on our website, will any of our internal systems be connected to the website for use of this?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm asking this from a security point of view. Will any of our internal computer systems be hooked up to the website, information-wise?
This entire software program, this package is cloud-based. It's nothing that we run on anyone else's system or network. It's linked. So if you click a link for a specific, let's say you want to see what the crime, what we spend on public safety versus other cities and towns, other like cities and towns. When you click on that link, it's cloud-based. It brings you to their cloud service.
If you remember, Mr. Chairman, when you first brought this up, Jonathan, to the Board of Selectmen, we had 2 questions, and that was one of them. Will personal information be available? The answer was no. And is it hackable? No, because it's not part of a system. It's subjected strictly to the town.
ClearGov or any users of ClearGov do not have access to our network. It's all on their network. It's all on their cloud-based software. They do not have access to our network.
You're right.
But how often are they getting information from us? Is it a daily update, a yearly, monthly, quarterly?
Well, that's one of the things we're discussing, and depending on the type of information, such as like a road project, you can set the amount of information or the timeframe between the updated information. Generally monthly for financial information, or at least quarterly.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do we currently have somebody on staff that manages our website and social media
Yes, we
footprint?
do. The town accountant does, which is convenient, because she provided most of the information.
So would that relieve pressure on her to keep updating the website if we're providing this data through ClearGov?
Well, I've been trying to convince her of that.
So
Well,
my
well-
last question is, sorry, if you have, how would you intend to drive additional traffic to the website based on this, from a taxpayer's perspective, like if,
So we would have a discussion like tonight. You can link this to social media, including Twitter, Facebook, whatever the popular social media platforms are, as well as the website. So if we had a discussion like we did tonight, and Mr. Joseph wanted to talk about the increases in our healthcare costs, we could detail that out, and we could put it right up on the screen, so if somebody's watching tonight, they could go right to a link on Facebook, social media platform, our website, and that would be there. Not only would it be there, but they could click on a picture of Mr. Joseph and get his question, and they could click on a picture of Mr. Carmignani and get his answer, and then they would have a chance to look at the data for themselves, not only internal comparisons, but statewide comparisons. So it's a tool that we can drive people to based on what the issue happens to be. If we're building a new fire station, if we're proposing $900,000 in borrowing for water and sewer infrastructure, we can follow that project from the time that borrowing, that bond is approved, till the time that the last shovelful of dirt is placed over the trench. We can follow that project. We can follow the budget forecast, how we're keeping up with the way we forecast the budget, how much of that bond has been paid off. We can track all of that. It depends on what we want to provide for information and how much of it we want to provide. It's really a neat tool.
thank you.
Just a quick question. So this seems like an awful lot of information that's gonna go up on this. So with this kind of information, are we going to hire somebody that's gonna take all this information from all of every town department and put this in? Or are we gonna train people in the different departments to put their own information? How does a lot of information get in?
So we talked a little bit about public safety. In the highway department, the water and sewer departments, they provide a monthly report. A lot of data is contained in those reports. For example, EMS calls, call response, collections on EMS bills. That report is already provided to us. What good does it do the public? They don't see it. We don't put it online, and if we do, it's a PDF hidden somewhere on our website. Now, if you want that report, you go to a fire department link or a police department link, and you can get the report that they provided to us publicly, but in a really neat format where you can see a pie chart that shows what's our collection rate as opposed to last week, what's our collection rate as opposed to 5 years, what's the historical trend in terms of our call volume. All that information is handed off to these people as part of that $6,000 and $4,500 ongoing annual fee. We just hand it to them in the format that was given to us. We hand over the fire chief or the police chief's annual monthly report, and they take that data and they place it into the format that we require or request. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
does the company put it into the format that we need?
Yes.
Or do we have to provide it in a format that they can use?
They put it into a format that we request. We use BMSI accounting software, and that's a format that they understand and can work with, for example.
Now, is there any information that isn't provided to us in reports that is gonna be part of this? I mean,
No, there's not going to be
Everything
any,
is-
everything is public information,
Right.
or information that's controlled through individual committees or boards that they will want to make public information.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else?
And we're not, the $6,000 coming out of the town administrative salaries account,
We're good, don't worry.
you're good? All right.
It was overfunded.
Overfunded. You mean you were underpaid?
There's a surplus in there, thanks, Mr.
Okay.
Joseph.
Get it.
Okay, on to Article 28, Stormwater Management Account, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer available funds, the sum of $8,500 to Stormwater account, or take any other action relative thereto. Stormwater, what are we doing with, we're just putting money in the account, it's not for anything special?
Oh, no. So we didn't report we're supposed to do an annual report on our stormwater management practices. For the last couple of years, we failed to do that and put us on the radar screen of the EPA, not DEP, but the EPA. So now we're working with a company and as Vinnie brought up tonight, we're working with a company to mitigate some of the issues we're having with our stormwater, which we're required to do under federal law, and one of the purchases of the street sweeper is going to help keep us in compliance with the EPA, that mandates that we mitigate some of these issues with stormwater. So the goal has been to put $25,000 annually into the account, which began with my predecessor, and we are going to need, just to get back on track, we just filed our annual report, we were a little late on it. We're going to need the balance of $8,500 between now and June 30th to keep us on track and in compliance with the EPA requirements.
Anyone, Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, this is a little whimsical.
Well, no, it's not.
It is. But hopefully anyone who watches this, and I'm assuming there will be millions, even on tape delay, if someone out there could invent what we call the sewers, the grates, that were louvered, that could be programmed once it's heavy rain just to close the louvers, and I bet you we'd stop 90% of the stormwater infiltration. But that's an invention that could be, make someone a multi-billionaire, and all I ask is a small share of the royalties for the idea.
Okay.
I think that software does.
Sewage and cover.
You still got to pick up the
Very
stuff that you prevented from going in, though. That's the problem.
Put it down, pick it up.
Anyone else? On to the next one, Article 29, Board of Selectmen, to see if the town will vote to amend the Dudley General Bylaws, Article 50, Town Administrator, by inserting a new Section 2(9) and renumbering the existing subparagraphs of Section 2 accordingly. All changes shown in bold below, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that you refrain
Dispense.
from reading the entire
I was
article of current and
I was
just
just
read
going
number
to read the
9.
bold.
Just number 9. That's the only change.
That's it. And it says here the changes are in bold. I'm going to read the bold, which is number 9. He, she shall approve all bills, drafts, orders, and payrolls under the authority of the Board of Selectmen, and shall sign warrants for payment on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, provided that he shall also make available to said board any records of such actions on a regular basis and as the board may require. Anyone have any questions on that? Onward. Okay, we've got another large one here. Article 30, Personnel Board, to see if the town will vote to amend the Dudley General Bylaws. Article 32, Personnel Policies and Procedures authorized pursuant to MGL, Chapter 41, Sections 108A and 108C as follows, with deleted language stricken through and additional text shown in boldface type. Again, since there's so much here, I think I'm just going to say what we're striking and what we're replacing. We're striking the word establish, and instead of establish, we're putting assist in establishing and maintaining. We're taking out the word action. That's it on the first page.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would it be helpful if I just said that the changes here were a means to codify the existing personnel board bylaw? It was sent through town council. These changes are to recognize the change in the town administrator's bylaw that makes the town administrator the personnel director, and makes the personnel board and the town administrator's personnel director work in a harmonious fashion. So instead of it being an exclusive purview of, for example, the personnel board, it's a in conjunction situation with the personnel director and the personnel board.
Makes sense to me, and it would be nice to see the word, if I saw the word harmonious in a town warrant article, I'd fall over backwards. But I'm okay with it, with the way
For
Mr.
example,
Ruda suggested.
in conjunction with the town administrator, prepare a classification and pay plan in conjunction with the town administrator, as opposed to prepare a classification and pay plan, period. Type of thing.
Okay. Everyone good with that? Okay, Article 31, Board of Selectmen, to see if the town will vote pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 38H, or any other enabling authority to authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town of Dudley to
Mr.
enter...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there was this page is incorrect. I have the correct page here, beginning with Article 31, if I can pass that out.
Okay.
All right, so we're removing the original 31, which, is that a duplicate of what we already talked about?
One of the articles didn't make it onto the version you had originally.
Okay, so
It's
there's a new 31?
It's a new 31.
Okay.
And Article 31 is to address, Vinnie, if you want to come up, just in case there's questions. We have a lot of dead trees is the bottom line. We had an unforeseen gypsy moth issue. There's a lot of low-hanging, overhanging dead trees that we need to address. We think there's safety issues. And we'd like to provide for additional
Before we do
funding.
that, and I agree, because we've only been spending about $200 a year, are all of these trees that are hazardous our responsibility, or are some of them to be taken down by National Grid?
We've exhausted all of the trees that National Grid is able to take down for us, because they have exhausted their budget as well, because of the gypsy moth issue. So we've reached our allotted National Grid tree removal money.
Okay, let me ask this question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Joseph. Put that way.
Are we not passing the cost of any of these to National Grid because they've, quote, exhausted their budget?
We-
End quote?
We can certainly try to do that.
All right,
I think that the highway superintendent wants to mitigate the public safety issue that exists, and
so we don't need to add the language, Mr. Chairman, that says not to exceed. The understanding is whatever we can pass off to National Grid will be left over when we do our end of the year report, and could be available to put into either free cash or stabilization. Is that correct? Could be.
if we can pass on the cost, certainly.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay, that's good, thank you.
Everybody's good?
I'm sure he's all right.
I just wanted to say that the list of trees that I have, and it grows daily, is not based on threat to wires. It's all about threat to life. So the wires, to me, are, National Grid is taking down a bunch of trees, but their priority is the wires, and that's my bottom of my priority list is their wires. So everything that I have on the list is a high hazard for life.
Hopefully my last question.
It won't be.
So are we talking about trimming or taking down the whole trees?
Taking down a whole tree.
And these are all either dangerous and/or unhealthy?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. And that was Article 31.
This is not coming out of free cash, right? No.
This is,
This is coming out of free cash?
it is now. We have to make an adjustment at the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit of money.
Okay.
What are you gonna do? We have trees. Next one, Article 39, Pearl Crawford Memorial Library, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $1,686.95 to the library operating expense account, or take any other action relative thereto. Anyone have any questions on that? Anything? Anything?
Excuse me if I may,
Sure.
wasn't that included in Article 22? Already addressed? What was the dollar amount again, if you...
1,686.95.
That's the same amount.
Same article?
It's in-
The article?
That is the same amount.
I don't know.
These are both.
Wow.
I saw her
Well, let's get rid of it
Let's
then.
get rid of that one.
So
Absolutely.
32, we're going to strike.
Strike
Let's
32.
strike it.
Is that a concurrence of both boards?
Yes.
Is that a,
It's not on the original.
No.
Okay.
everyone's good with striking that?
I'm okay with it.
Hearing no objections. Article 33 is a petition article, Historical Commission preserving historic records, to see if the town will vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of archival preservation, or take any other action relative thereto. I think this is something we've seen in the past.
I usually
We'll
find
just
this.
refer it to the petitioner at the,
Yeah, I have a
meeting, or are
question
we
on
just
that,
going to-
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
I have a question with that article, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Should this pass,
Mhm.
we have a few options. If you look at, this is not in order of preference, but I funded capital stabilization at 110. We would obviously reduce that. We could reduce that to 100, or we could take it out of free cash. And our free cash number right now, based on a conservative, uncertified estimate of $500,000, our balance after funding all these articles would be $61,940.48. If we took it out of free cash, our conservative free cash number would be $51,940.48. Or we could remove $10,000 from capital stabilization and deposit $100,000 as opposed to $110. So,
I'd rather see it come out of free cash personally, but I don't know how everyone else feels.
Well, this is the first time, I think, that the figure's 10,000. In the past, it's always been around 5,000. So, it's a good amount. We can always reduce it on the floor, but it doesn't make any difference to me where it comes out of. Stabilization or free cash, it's gonna come out of one of the two. So, it doesn't make any difference to me, and we don't have to state it right now here. All right, because it could come out of one or the other.
well, all right. I'd like to be able to make a recommendation, the FAA is going to make a recommendation with a source of funding for that, probably. Unless the
their thoughts?
petitioner does, which I don't think would be a good idea to.
I mean, to me, free cash would be what we've funded it in the past, not free cash, unless you want Do you have, I mean, Article 30, if we're just jumping ahead a little bit, it looks like you got 100 for the capital stabilization fund, but we got 110 on the summary for, so which, I'm not sure which.
So the capital stabilization fund is, I'm proposing to deposit 110.
Okay, because I see it
And
in
then the
that,
stabilization fund above, I'm proposing to deposit, should be 100,000.
I'm seeing
wasn't updated.
75 into stabilization and
70,
100,000
yeah,
into capital
75.
stabilization.
You know, why don't we just do what appears to be the right thing? Take it out of free cash. Doesn't have to be stated here, but just, unless you want to state it out of free cash, it's over, it's done with. And then just leave Article 34 the way it is,
right.
and not have to change it at all.
Okay. It's fine with me.
Good idea.
And I believe it funding at this 10,000, he has a $5,000 benefactor for this, right? Am I correct on this?
I thought it was a 1-to-1 up to 10,000.
I thought it was half of what we put in.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
I'm
Pretty
speaking
sure
out
it
of
was.
turn.
I mean, we can give him the floor to mention it.
Okay. So now I've got, last one is add to stabilization funds to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds. $75,000.00 to the stabilization fund. And since we're doing the 10 out of free cash, I'm going to say 110,000 to the capital stabilization fund, because that's what was on the original piece here.
Okay.
Is that right? Am I doing this right?
If we're gonna leave it, I will
This one says
leave it.
100, this one says 110.
We'll leave it 110,000.00 for capital stabilization. Did you get that on the next?
Nothing?
So that puts, what does that put our balance at free cash?
51,940. That's what the conservative estimate of 500,000 hasn't been certified yet. We anticipate more than that, the auditors anticipate more than that, the town accountant anticipates more than that. We went with the conservative $500,000 estimate, which is about as low as I want to go with
With free cash?
free cash, remaining at 51,000.
What was the, do you know what the stabilization account, the balance is now?
100,686.36. So that'll bring us to 200,686. I'm sorry.
The
75.
175,
Based
right?
on 75, it brings us to 175, 686.36.
Okay. Well, hopefully the numbers for free cash look a little better. Can add to that account, but.
We
That's
should
it.
hopefully have those this week.
Well, that's the last bit of the town meeting warrant.
Mr. Chairman, there was a hold put on Article.
We had to go back to that
Oh.
one.
Which article?
6.
Article 6, which was guardrail replacement on Charlton Road.
I asked you to hold on to that because I didn't know what happened with the missing article, which we produced at the end, so we can just proceed forward with that if you want, Mr. Chairman.
Jonathan, why did we hold that?
I didn't know if I were gonna, what had happened to the article that we approved with the tree removal, because I was thinking at one point to combine both of them, so I'd asked Michelle to check on that, in case we had to go back to
So do you
them.
want to remove the hold or keep the hold?
We can remove the hold and move forward with reviewing the article.
Article 6, Highway Department guardrail replacement on Charlton Road, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds. sum of $14,402 or such other sum for guardrail replacement on Charlton Road at Michael Lane, or take any other action relative thereto.
Question is why, what is motivating us to do this?
I think it was a guardrail that disappeared. Am I, Mr. Ruda?
So the highway superintendent and the police chief recommended doing this guardrail replacement because when the brush was removed, what I think we noticed was there was no guardrail there. So coming down that hill, you have two bodies of water on either side, and it's a real safety issue.
This is for just one side of the road.
Correct.
And there was no guardrail there before?
There is, but it's completely muckled, it's deteriorated, the cables are on the ground.
Okay.
And this is on the side of the road,
It's on the westerly side of the road,
Michael's,
or the easterly side?
Southerly side of the road, I guess you would say,
Okay.
on the Michael Lane side of Charlton Road.
and this guardrail would be against, oh, what's that pond's name, begins with a W?
Wallace.
Wallace.
Actually, it wouldn't be on Wallace, it's Sawmill. Wallace is on the other side of the street, Sawmill is on,
Sawmill is the one with the dam.
yeah,
Okay. I'm just picturing in my head where it's going.
yeah. The biggest concern is if you're coming out of Oxford, heading toward Dudley, just past Michael Lane, if you veered off, there's nothing to prevent you from going right into the body of water.
And that's deep.
It is
Yeah.
deep
Oh,
there,
yeah.
yes.
Used to fish there,
Yeah.
right? Just one quick question. The price of this was a lot higher, I thought.
It is.
What happened to why did it drop so low?
When I got proposals for this, I did it a bunch of ways. I did it for a company to come in and do the whole project, remove the old, put the new, and I got a proposal from us removing the old and them coming in, putting the new, and I got a price from us buying the materials and us doing the whole
The whole
project.
job, right.
And we did get a post hole digger for Bobcat last time around, and I feel confident that we're gonna be able to complete this project. It's, I forget, 440 feet long, but
Wow.
I think it's a good test to see if we can save it. It's almost half the amount.
All right, how much was it for them to do the whole thing?
The whole thing was, I think, 22, 737.50.
Quite a bit.
Well, actually, that's not the whole article, because there's police detail in that article. This is just for the materials for the guardrail. Okay.
Anyone have anything else?
No, but I'm ready to move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the town warrant as presented and as discussed at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
And then you folks are gonna meet, you're gonna public hearing when?
Yeah, FAA will have a public meeting on Tuesday, next week.
Okay. What time?
6 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5, did we change it? 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock.
And will it be in this room here?
Yes.
So next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, which will be the 22nd?
Yeah.
Here in this room. Good.
Okay.
I'm gonna move the Board of Selectmen adjourn.
Well, one more vote,
What?
if we
What?
could. I'm gonna provide a column, like we're supposed to under bylaw, with the FAA's recommendation for each spending article, so if you could vote to approve my recommendations.
Yep.
You're having another meeting?
Yeah, we're having a meeting on Tuesday.
Okay, my apologies.
And I'm still gonna move to adjourn.
And the only thing I'm waiting for is something from council on
For the
the
solar?
pilot agreement, yeah, on the wording on the pilot agreement.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
See,
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right, and now we'll call a motion for the FAA.
Second.
We'll adjourn.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
He seconded it,
All right.
but yeah. I'll
All in
third it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, adjourned.
Good job, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, mine.
Oh, those are my
Thank you,
auxiliary.
I
Jonathan.
was about to steal them.
Thank you,
a few
Michelle.
times 'cause my